Welcome back. Today we are talking about Palantir's much anticipated third quarter 2022 earnings report, which is happening on November 7th in 19 days as I record this. So just for a little bit of context, Palantir stock has fallen pretty dramatically 3 out of the last 4 earnings reports, but it seems that the stock has been getting a little bit of relative strength against the market more recently. So it'll be very interesting to see, just as a general long-term investor, what happens with the stock in the short term. I think given how much Palantir has been drawn down alongside many other growth stocks, we could see some more outperformance going forward. So with that said, let's talk some logistics. Palantir's third quarter ended September 30th as we were talking about all of the new contracts coming in for Palantir. Any services provided before the end of the quarter will be realized in their November 7th earnings report. Now, the earnings release is always before the market open, generally around 6:45 to 7:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Palantir will release its recap on the quarter with some quarterly highlights, some trailing 12-month highlights, the financial summary, and outlook. And then heading into the 8 a.m. Eastern webcast, we will get the letter to shareholders from Alex Karp with more commentary on the quarter, as well as the slide deck presentation for Q2 and any relevant information for investors and analysts to read through heading into that earnings call. And of course, Palantir files their 10Q before they release the information. So for the live webcast, which I expect Alex Karp to be a part of, as he has been, and if it's anything like last quarter's report, it's just going to be a blank screen, no video like they did on their annual report, but Alex Karp will be on the call. All the other key executives will be on the call. They will talk through the business update for the third quarter of 2022. They will take some questions from Say Technologies, which we're about to get into, and then they will take just a few analyst questions. You'll notice that this earnings call was only about 41 minutes. Now, hopefully they're able to extend it a little more than that because they really didn't address very many questions, and then only a handful of institutional investor questions. The more time that Palantir can commit to all kinds of investors, a means to adapt and prove to your shareholders that you truly do care about them. So with that said, let's get into the questions that are being asked for the third quarter of 2022 of Palantir's management team. Now, what I will say about this, again, if you look at the last 3 quarterly events Palantir has held, in this earnings call, Palantir actually answered 6 questions, one of which was my question. I feel like they gave a pretty good answer, very long and detailed answer, and sure, pre-prepared and all of that. However, I do appreciate when they're able to speak to a specific issue. Now, what I don't understand is why, for instance, with last quarter in Q2, they only took about 4 questions from the retail investors. And the other thing I don't understand is why they don't choose the most top voted questions and why they handpick the questions instead of answering what investors want to hear about most. So that's what I just wanted to preempt this Q3 earnings call with. I hope Palantir will answer the top voted questions, unless of course they are not relevant. So I want to get into and read some of these, give you a bit of an understanding on what questions are going to be asked of Palantir's management and see which ones they actually choose to address. But for the next minute, I want to talk about MooMoo, a company that I've been working with to provide you with up to 15 free stocks. MooMoo is a brokerage firm based in Palo Alto, California. I'm in the app on Palantir Stock, but I want to show you how great it is to learn more about Palantir. You can head to the summary page, view shareholder holdings, and see the latest details on percentage ownership, shares owned, changes over time, increases and decreases regarding positions. And here we get an earnings recap with revenues of $473 million and net income loss of $179 million. The business revenue composition breakdown, government coming in at 58% of revenue, regional with the United States at 57%. We can take a look at financial indicators, financial estimates going forward, the technical indicators, the company's valuation, the latest news. You can use MooMoo with a link in my description to learn more about Palantir and to buy, sell, or paper trade its stock. Question number 1 with over 500 votes. I love what this company had the potential to accomplish. bullish. I really do. But how can Palantir turn this potential into meaningful results to its shareholders, being down nearly 80% since all-time highs? I really don't think this is a helpful question. I understand why it is top voted, given this is a retail-based voting on these questions, but it's really not about the potential of a company, right? It's about the progress towards management's goals, what they have set out for, the operating profit targets, the growth targets, and all of that. Because look, this isn't even really a question. I really don't think addressing this towards management, saying, what can you do for me, is the right way about asking such a question. And the other thing is, this really highlights the disconnect between the stock and the company. But I think this could be phrased a lot better about providing meaningful results to shareholders. Of course, what Palantir's response should be to this question, if they choose to take it, is we are going to continue to do what is best for our business, continue to grow it on the commercial and the government side, and ultimately hit our profitability target by the year 2025 and do good for the world along the way. Next up, what are Palantir's plans to grow the business in this challenging macro environment? So this is a good question, and I'd expect Palantir to say something along the lines of what they've said before regarding how their products thrive in difficult macro environments and how they design them for such, right? Because this is what they've been talking about for the longest time: instability in the world, instability in organizations, be they businesses or governments, and how Foundry and Gotham are able to provide value throughout the value chain, even when uncertainty strikes. So I think Palantir's plans to grow the business, its business, would be providing that value and, as best they can, signing contracts and deploying their product to those organizations that need it the most. I really don't think this is a super helpful question in regards to getting new information out of Palantir. Can you speak about the current competitive landscape and elaborate how Palantir products stand out against the newly launched Microsoft Data Platform, Salesforce Genie, and the Snowflake platform that are attempting to offer an all-in-one solution like Foundry? So this is a good question, right? It hits on the competitive landscape because that's what some investors are concerned about. Can Palantir maintain its lead with Foundry? And what are its competitors doing? Because if its competitors weren't trying to copy Foundry, maybe that meant that Foundry wasn't necessarily a good product and it didn't have potential. But of course, that is not the case. So I'd be very interested in hearing what Palantir says about its competitors and how it stays a step above and beyond, right? Because it's been developing these products for so long now, coming up on 2 decades. And it really is the only company that has a cohesive and holistic all-in-one solution like Foundry. How is Palantir involved in the Russia-Ukraine conflict? I would expect that answer to go something like this.
This is going to change the way war is fought, because here you have a tiny country with very little assets, and in the use of software and heroism, you can push off and win against a Goliath.
You keep saying use of software. Explain that.
Well,
this is the Palantir part of the story.
Yeah, the part that we're not allowed to talk about is you just, in classic warfare, it just comes down to post-World War II. America spends $800 billion, Russia spends, $65 billion, but Russia thinks half of it is at waste, and they're willing to do things on the human rights front we would never do. So they think it's parity.
Thank you. What is the growth goal for Palantir in the next 10 years? What are the plans to achieve this goal? So this is very similar to a question that I asked in a quarter prior, where I was asking regarding the master plan for Palantir. Like, what is the long-term goal beyond getting to profitability in a few years, beyond continuing to compound the business at over 30% in terms of revenue and sales? I was looking for more targeted financial goals and more targeted goals around the impact of Palantir's product and where they see it ending up, right? Aside from just the standard, we're trying to protect the West and improve the vitality of the organizations that matter to the West. So I was looking for something like that. Again, it looks like a similar question is being asked. However, I'm not sure if Palantir is going to answer this question. They did not choose to answer mine despite it being a very top question, and they could choose to answer it with a pre-scripted response. Of how these Say Technology Q&As go is you have to ask very targeted questions and understand that Palantir is pre-scripting their responses such that they will be answering in the best way possible from their end. So I just wanted to run through some of those Say Technology questions and give you a sense for what questions are going to be asked and some of them that could be answered during the November 7th call. I will be live streaming the release of the earnings, but not the call itself. So I just wanted to go over all of these, and my full earnings preview is coming shortly, and I will catch you in the next video. Until next time.